New York State Attorney General Letitia James ran for office on the promise of targeting former President Donald Trump, which led her to pursue a novel civil fraud case that economic experts now believe will have a chilling effect on business in New York State. Now, this is unprecedented what she's doing. An Associated Press analysis of similar cases dating back 70 years show that the case against former President Trump represents the only time a business in the state was threatened with a shutdown without obvious victims or major losses. When an elected official can use the court system to target a political opponent, what does this mean for the rule of law in our country? And what could this mean for investors and businesses in the state of New York? Joining me now to discuss this is economist Stephen Moore. He's a principal at the Committee to Unleash Prosperity and a distinguished fellow in economics at the Heritage Foundation. Steve, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Hi, Tony. Good to be with you.
Businesses are now starting to take notice of what New York is doing to President Trump because apparently, as I understand it, and this is more in your league, but what his business was doing is what businesses do in New York, but now they're making it a crime.
Yeah, you made a really key point that if there is, even if there is a crime here and there isn't, who's the victim? There is no victim. This is a clearly victimless crime. Nobody's standing up there, holding up their hand and saying that Donald Trump defrauded them. This is clearly an example of how we have a two-tiered justice system in America. And what they're showing is that, look, if you can, and Donald Trump has quite correctly made this point, Tony, if they can do this to him, they can do it to anybody. And that's why it's having a chilling effect. Why would anybody invest in New York when one of the guys who helped make New York a great city and invested and built buildings and rebuilt the skating rink and really is, you go down Fifth Avenue and you see so much of the development was a result of him. And this is the way to repay him, by trying to take away his, hundreds of millions of dollars that he has earned. Other businessmen and women look at that and say, hell no, I'm not going to invest in New York because they're going to steal my business from me.
Do the authorities in New York care about that? Or is this just a collateral damage that they're really not concerned with as long as they're able to take down Donald Trump?
I think probably a little bit of both. I think there is such a anti-Trump derangement syndrome out there that these people can't even see that that when they want to put him in jail for 500 years, when they want to take away everything that he has, when they want to have these juries that are not impartial, it only makes him stronger, Tony. I mean, every time they come after him, have you noticed that? His opinion polling goes up because Americans have I don't care if you're a liberal, Democrat, Republican, Americans have an innate sense of fairness. And
Right.
Anybody who looks at these trials knows that they're unfair. And we need a justice system that weighs both sides, and that's not happening. But I think when you ask, do people in New York, the politicians care? I wonder, because they have the highest taxes, they have the highest crime, they have the worst schools, they do nothing to fix their city, and they act as if the people who create the wealth are the problem.
Well, again, if it's street crime, I get it. As a former police officer, the financial issues like financial crimes and what they're pursuing there, it's a little more of a struggle. But what I see here, just as the casual observer of this, is that their efforts toward him are so exaggerated and unprecedented that you just can't help but see something is not right here.
Well, everyone knows that these are bogus charges, and almost all of them are. I mean, how many different lawsuits are there against him now? I can't even keep track. Now, in some of them may have crossed the line. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm telling you that in so many of these cases, there is nothing there, and no ordinary American would be charged with these things. As you just said, they've had these laws on the books for 70 years, and no one has ever been prosecuted. And now it's Donald Trump. Do you think is there anybody who thinks that's a mere coincidence?
Right. Well, and there's people who are not even supportive. I mean, they're opponents of Donald Trump in the business world who are horrified by the state's actions because they know that if the shoe were on the other foot, that they could be the target of this type of persecution.
And that's why this is a real danger to the, to the business environment, which is already lousy in New York. But I know, let me just say one last thing, if I may, Tony. As you know, I work as an economist for Donald Trump. And I honest to God's truth, I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night with a cold sweat, and I fear that there's going to be a banging on my front door, and I'm going to go to the front door, and there's going to be 3 FBI agents with machine guns to take me away. And what is my crime? I work for Donald Trump. Now, you may say that's an exaggerated fear, but some of my colleagues, that's exactly what happened.
No, I've heard that from many of your colleagues
Yes.
who have faced that. And this is, I mean, beyond just this case in New York, as you say, the cascading number of cases, and I can only describe it as persecution. It's gone beyond prosecution. This is,
by the way, sometimes there was sorry to interrupt, but there was a funny CNN headline the other day where they meant to say prosecution and they used the word persecution.
Well, Freudian slip. Freudian slip.
This is a persecution. It is not a prosecution.
This is undermining the rule of law in our country. I mean, what makes our system work, what makes our economy work, is that everyone has to play by the same rules, and you know what the rules are.
And not only that, but it's also, this is kind of the justice that is persecution that happens in third world countries that don't believe in the law, the idea that we live by laws. And it's a scary situation for the United States right now. And incidentally, Donald Trump will be on the ballot in 6-7 months. And my feeling is, let the American people be the jury here. I mean, you've got a number of states who don't even want him on the ballot.
Do you think that a reform-minded president, a disruptor like President Trump, if he were to return to office, could bring stability back by cleaning out this threat to the rule of law?
I hope so, but it's so deeply embedded. I mean, Tony, you've been in this game a long time. I've been in this game a long time. The deep state is not a figment of our imagination. These agencies, whether it's the FBI, the Justice Department, the State Department, the foreign aid departments, I always tell Donald Trump when I see him, it's amazing you accomplished, sir, what you did, given that 95% of the civil service was against you.
Right. There is a deep state, and it runs very, very deep. Stephen Moore, always great to see you. Thanks so much for taking time to join us today.
Happy Easter. Thank you so much.